So effects on Swedish exports. And as you saw on the map in the beginning, Sweden and the Nordics are in lead, recovering very, very well from the pandemic. And in Sweden, I should say that we are already back on pre-crisis level, and will probably during the year end up with more than recovering if you compare it to prior to the crisis. But we could, of course, be hit a bit more than we expected when we did our forecast due to these supply chain disruptions that we see right now, which means that you do not have intermediate goods, and there could be semiconductors, not least in the automotive industry, and then you need to temporarily, hopefully, shut down production facilities, and this will have an effect, of course. And since the Swedish economy is dependent on export to such a large extent, it will have an effect on our economy. So it could be that we need to revise the forecast downwards a bit. We expect the Swedish economy to bounce back by 4.5% this year from a contraction of about 3% almost last year, and then 3.5% growth next year. So I should say that maybe we have to revise down to about 4%. It's not that we will go down to contraction. So it will be a strong economic recovery and growth, but maybe temporarily it will be somewhat weaker. And the export manager index that we have at Business Sweden every quarter, this is the headline index, and over 50 means that the export companies are optimistic. And as you can see, it's still a historical high level that we have on the EMI. We have done this in 2007, and it's the second quarter, it was all-time high, but it's still a very high level. And we expect this index, as well as PMIs and others, to normalize when we go into a more, I don't know if you should say a normal situation, but some kind of new normal. Then we expect all indices to approach 50, or if you normalize it to 100. But in this picture, we have the 50 mark. So that's still something positive as we see it. So Swedish export companies are very optimistic today, the current situation, and if they look ahead a quarter. So that's encouraging, but they also at the same time say that they expect longer delivery times for their exports. As you can see to the right-hand side in this graph or picture, it's 56% of the Swedish exporting companies that expect longer time for their deliveries. And this could, of course, be higher activity, and then delivery times will be longer. But we truly believe that this, to a large extent, has to do with supply chain problems and disruptions, and with the freight situation, etc. So that's also an all-time high figure. We haven't seen such a large share of Swedish companies actually answering that they expect longer delivery times. And this is, I think, my last, or I have one more slide. So if you look at this, it's a lot of information, and we ask Swedish companies what they expect from demand from these 6 different regions. And this is 4 quarters. So the yellow bar you can look at now, it's the 3rd quarter, what they answer. So over 50, the 50 mark, it's an optimistic view on expected demand from the region. So I would like to focus a little bit on the Asian Pacific region, where it really, a real nosedive, I should say, to the lowest level that we have seen during the 10 years that we have done this survey. And it could be due to the spread of the virus and the low coverage of vaccination, in the Southeast Asian region and other parts of Asia as well. China has a strong weight in this, of course. 5.5% of the Swedish export is directed towards China, and to the whole region it's about 13% of the Swedish export, somewhat bigger than to North America. So it could also be an indication of something more underlying that is going on in the region, but we don't have the answer. Maybe some of you have reflections on this. So the last slide is actually to show our export forecast for 2021-2022. And last year, Swedish export fell by approximately 4.5%. So having almost 10% bounce back or increase in export this year is quite good for Sweden and Swedish export. You see it on the last row in this table. And 4.4% next year is also a bit higher than if you look to the historical average. So this is a good situation that we see, and if you have questions on the different regions, of course we can go into this, but when you see South America, for example, if you say, oh, 21%, yes, but it fell to more or less zero export last year. So this has to do with the level and what happened the year before. So looking into this, and maybe we have to revise this as well a little bit downwards if we have these supply chain disruptions and problems with us for a longer time, then it will have an effect on production and of course export as well. So the last word from me is actually that global recovery is well on its way, but we should prepare for a bumpy ride ahead.
Thank you very much, Lena.